Yo, what's up, snipers, and welcome back to episode number 2 of our Stanley Cup Finals Rematch series. So, in last episode, we did the 1999 Stanley Cup Finals between the Dallas Stars and the Buffalo Sabres. So, Dallas managed to hold on to the Stanley Cups as they won in 4 games. Now we move ahead 7 years into the future with the 2006 Stanley Cup Finals between the Carolina Hurricanes and the Edmonton Oilers. So, this series went a full 7 games, and Carolina got its first and only Stanley Cup. Hurricanes netminder Martin Gerber struggled in the first round against Montreal. Despite winning in 6 games, they decided to give their 21-year-old goaltender Cam Ward a chance. Cam Ward ended up going 15-8 in the playoffs with a minuscule 2.14 goals against average and a .920 save percentage, as well as 2 shutouts. His spectacular play led the Canes to the Cup. As for the Oilers, they were led by an unsung hero in Fernando Pisani. And Fernando Pisani was actually born in Edmonton. He put up 14 goals in the playoffs alone, and then he also put up 5 game winners too. Anyway, now time to show you guys the jerseys for both teams. So we got the normal Carolina logo, and we got this logo which they had on their shoulder patches. I think they still might. So that is the logos. Now onto the uniform. So I basically just used the same colors as what they had on it. So you got the gray, the white, and the black on the bottom for like the stripes. And then everywhere else is all red pretty much. So it looks pretty good. I like the looks of it. And then their away jersey, pretty much just reversed. And then they don't have an alternate jersey, or they didn't from those years. So I did not make an alternate. For mascot wise, I also tried to make the arena look like the RBC Century because that's where they played. So their mascot is Stormy. It currently still is Stormy, but this does not look anything like Stormy, as I could not find a way to make Stormy look like Stormy. He's actually like a pig, I think. I don't even know. So this is Stormy the mascot, and I put 1997 because I think that's the number that they actually put for him, because that's when Carolina came into existence, is 1997. So that is the mascot. Now let's flip over to the Oilers jerseys. Okay, so here with the Edmonton Oilers, so I tried to make the arena look as best as I can like Rexall Center or Rexall Place. I don't know which one it was, but as you can see, I put it as Rexall Place on here, ED06, and yeah, so now let's flip to the logos. So the logo I used the normal Oilers jersey logo, and then we also got their third jersey logo, which is a nice oil drop with some like gear thing. I tried to make the colors look exactly the same. Not 100% sure if they are, but still looks pretty good. Now onto the home jersey. The only thing I don't like about this is I couldn't make the armbands the actual colors. Like, they have to be navy, but for some reason they only want me to put it as the orange, which is what the stripe color is. So it kind of defaults to that, which is annoying. That's what their jersey look like. The away jersey reversed in color again, pretty much. It looks nice. And their alternate is my favorite jersey by far. Nice navy blue jersey with that third logo I was talking about. And then there's also gray and white. So this is a very nice looking jersey. Hopefully it represents it pretty well. So now that we're done that, let's flip on over to the lines for the Carolina Hurricanes. Okay, so here are the lines for the Stanley Cup champion Carolina Hurricanes. So starting off on the left side here on line number 1, we got Corey Stillman. Corey Stillman was a very good player for the playoffs-wise. He won a Stanley Cup in 2004 with the Tampa Bay Lightning. He managed to put up like 7 points in that 7 games. A big piece of the Stanley Cup victory. Then you got the captain of the team, Rod Brind'Amour, who was in his 3rd Stanley Cup Finals, actually. He made the Stanley Cup Finals as a member of the Philadelphia Flyers back in 1997 against the Detroit Red Wings, which they lost in. And then he also was a member of, obviously, the 2002 Carolina Hurricanes, who went on to face the Detroit Red Wings once again and lost. This time, at least, they didn't have to face Detroit, as they faced Edmonton and won their first cup. Rod Brind'Amour had 2 goals in game number 1 and put 3 goals in the entire series. So he was a big piece as well. Very good defensive player. He won a Selke trophy, I believe, one time, or maybe a couple Selke trophies. He was also a bit of an instigating guy, kind of, too, so he had a lot of penalty minutes. Now we have Justin Williams, and Justin Williams, what I remember him mostly as, because this was like one of the first Stanley Cup Finals I ever watched, I remember just in the last minute of game number 7, he took the puck up the ice and put it into the empty net, and that sealed the deal for the Canes as they won 3-1 and won their first Stanley Cup that way. So Justin Williams was only 24 in the Stanley Cup Finals. For some reason I have him as 23, but he was only a 24-year-old at the time. Now he's closer to his retirement ages, and he's actually back in Carolina this season too, so kind of interesting. Now we have Matt Cullen on the left wing here. Matt Cullen plays still in the NHL. His birthday was actually a couple days ago, which he actually scored on with the Minnesota Wild. He's close to retirement as well in real life, but he was 28 in the Stanley Cup Finals. Another great piece to the team. He put up 5 points in the 7 games. Obviously, people know about Matt Cullen being a very good defensive player. Well, he was also a pretty good offensive player with Carolina. And then you got the young Eric Stahl. Eric Stahl was only 21 in the Stanley Cup Finals, and he was on a tear in the entire playoffs. He put up 8 points in the 7 games in the series, and then he also put up like 28 points in 25 games in the playoffs. So he was well over a point per game, and his career was just getting started, as this was only his second NHL year, I believe. Then we got a veteran in Mark Recchi. Mark Recchi has won 3 Stanley Cups in his career. He won 1 with the Pittsburgh Penguins. He won 1 with the Carolina Hurricanes here. And then he also won 1 with the Boston Bruins in 2011. He also could still produce. Like, he was 37 in this finals, but he still managed to put up 6 points in the 7 games to deliver a Stanley Cup victory. Now on the third line here, we have Andrew Loud, who is only 20 years old at this time. He still had a big beard, and he still looks the exact same as he did back in those days. He's probably one of my favorite players to an extent, just because I'm born exactly where he was, in a small place in BC. So it's pretty cool. But anyways, he had 2 points in the Stanley Cup Finals, and as I was saying, this was his rookie season in the NHL. Now, the center depth with Carolina is really, really good, as you can see. With this third line center, you got Doug Weight, who played 5 of his 7 games only because of his dislocated shoulder, I think. But he actually still managed to carry the Stanley Cup with that dislocated shoulder. You actually might hear Doc and Eddie and all those guys talking about it in like the celebration thing, because that happened when I did it. I had a test run with it, so it's kind of funny. But yeah, Doug Weight had still 3 points in 5 games, so he was almost a point per game. Big piece of the Cup champions as well. Then you got Ray Whitney. Ray Whitney was another good defensive player and a really good skater. He was pretty short as well, 5'10" only. He had 2 goals, I think it was in game number 1, that helped the Carolina Hurricanes come back and win the game, because they were originally down 3-0, but he helped rally the team back into the game to win by a score of 5-4. Now on the fourth line here, we got Craig Adams, who only won 1 Stanley Cup in his career. He won 1 with the Carolina Hurricanes, and then he had the chance to win some with the Pittsburgh Penguins, I think, but he didn't. And then he decided to retire the year before Pittsburgh won 2 in a row. So, yeah, Craig Adams had no points in the Stanley Cup Finals, and I barely think he had any points in the playoffs at all. He was more of a grinder, defensive kind of guy, nothing spectacular. Then you got Kevin Adams, who had the best face-off winning percentage in the entire league, I think, during the playoffs, or maybe at least for Carolina. He was just a good defensive player, and he was also a head coach or an assistant coach or something for the Buffalo Sabres a couple of years back. He also had no points in the Stanley Cup playoffs at all in 24 games, so he did not score that often, but he was just a good defensive guy. Then we got Chad LaRose. Chad LaRose played his entire career as a member of the Hurricanes. Nothing really much. He's just more of a bottom 6 guy, kind of defensive, not really. More of a offensive bottom liner that doesn't do much. He had 1 assist in the Stanley Cup Finals and only played 3 games as well. Now we get into the scratch guys for forwards. Is Eric Cole. Eric Cole played only 2 games in the Stanley Cup Finals, and he missed more than half of the regular season, I think. Main reason was because I think he broke his neck from a hit from Brooks Orpik. I'm not 100% sure with that, but Eric Cole was out for a long time, and he managed to come back and play the last 2 games in the Stanley Cup Finals. So there's Eric Cole, 26 years of age. He was a very good skater. I remember him winning like a skating competition or something back in Edmonton, and he beat a world record or something. Yeah, it was like back in like 2008 or something like that. And then we also have the late Joseph Vasicek, who obviously was a part of the Yaroslavl Lokomotiv team that fatally crashed back in September of 2011. Rest in peace, Joseph. He wasn't the worst offensive player, but he had no points in the playoffs. He played 3 games only as a depth guy, pretty much like the games that Doug Weight didn't play, he played. So that is Joseph Vasicek. And then let's continue on with defensemen. So top pairing consisted of Brett Hedican, who was just a really solid defensive defenseman. He also could throw checks, as he was the most penalized player in the Stanley Cup Finals. 6'2", 210, so pretty big player. Then you also got Mike Commodore, who back in these days, he had like a huge afro and a huge beard. He was a pretty big goof off the ice. He was the 3rd most penalized player in the playoffs, and he threw a lot of hits. He had 55 hits in 25 games in the finals, or in the playoffs, I should say, for that matter. So not the most poised guy, but just threw a lot of checks. Tried to jump in the rush sometimes, but wasn't the best offensively, so he's a defensive defenseman. And as you can see, his height and weight, 6'4", 227 pounds. Then on the second defensive pairing, you got František Kaberle, who's an 85 overall. He is the older brother of Thomas Kaberle, and he's probably one of the better of the two. He put up better numbers in the Stanley Cup Finals than he did maybe during the rest of his career. He actually had, I think, pretty much the game-winning goal in the Stanley Cup Finals. Like, him and his defensive partner Aaron Ward both had goals in that Game 7 clinching win. So František Kaberle, that's who he is. I think he also had 5 points in 7 games. So that's why I made him an offensive defenseman. Like, his rest of his career, he wasn't that much of an offensive defender, but he was definitely an offensive defenseman in the finals. Then we got Aaron Ward, who is also currently a TSN analyst. He had only 2 points in the Stanley Cup Finals, only 1 goal, and that 1 goal came in Game 7. Then on the third defensive pairing, we got Glenn Wesley, who was at the tail end of his career. He retired 2 years after this, but he was 37 in the Stanley Cup Finals. So not the greatest offensive player, more of a defensive grinder, kind of enforcer defenseman that gets into fights and stuff like that. He had no points in the Stanley Cup Finals, which is not a surprise, really. And then Nicholas Walleen, he had a short career, only about 600-something games. He only played between Carolina and San Jose. He was 6'3", 220, so another big defenseman. He only had 2 points in the Stanley Cup Finals as well. Now we get onto the scratch defender, and that is Oleg Tverdovsky, who won 2 Stanley Cups in his career, once with the Devils and once with the Hurricanes. He was only 29 in the Stanley Cup Finals, and he was just used more as a depth kind of guy. He only played 1 game in the Stanley Cup Finals, and I think that was in game number 1. Otherwise, he was a scratch for the rest of it, so that's why he's a scratch in this. And then in goal, we have Cam Ward, who is an 87 overall. I don't know if that's a little bit high for him, but he was a really good player in the playoffs, making big saves at clutch moments. Like in Game 1, he robbed Sean Horkov in the final seconds from tying the game up, so that's why I have him as an 87. And then you got Martin Gerber, who was a starter for a bit of the playoffs until they decided to put in Cam Ward instead. So as I said, Cam Ward went like 15-8 in the playoffs. Well, Martin Gerber wasn't the greatest. He ended up going, I don't know what his record was. I don't think he played an entire full game, but he had an .856 save percentage, which is really bad, and a 3.53 goals against average, in comparison to Cam Ward's 2.28 goals against average and .920 save percentage. So that's why they kept Cam Ward in net over Martin Gerber. Now let's flip on over to the lines for the Edmonton Oilers. Okay guys, so here is the lines for the Edmonton Oilers. So starting off on the left side, we got Ryan Smith, who never actually was a captain for the Edmonton Oilers. He was always an alternate captain, and then eventually he left the team to go to the New York Islanders, which was, I think, the year after the Stanley Cup Finals or something. So yeah, there's Ryan Smith. He only had 2 goals in the finals. Then you got his teammate Sean Horkov, who also had 2 goals in the finals. He was more of a defensive player. He could score as well, kind of when he was with Edmonton, but eventually when he went to the Ducks and stuff like that, he was more of a bottom line defensive player. So that's why Sean Horkov is less than him in overall. He's an 85 instead. And then we got Ales Hemsky, who was only 23, I think, in the Stanley Cup Finals in his 3rd season in the NHL. He was a very gifted skater when he was playing with the Edmonton Oilers. Now he's kind of a Montreal Canadian, so he's not playing that much. He's more of a healthy scratch kind of guy, but back in his heyday, he was a very good player. He had like 77 points during the regular season, and during the playoffs, well, in his finals, he had 6 points in 7 games, so he gave Edmonton a chance to win as well. Then on the second line, you got Sergei Samsonov, who was 27 at this time. He's also a very short player, 5'8", 188 pounds. Really small little Russian guy that could skate. He's got a good shot as well, but he only put home 1 goal in the finals. But he had a couple more, I think, in the other rounds against like San Jose and whatnot. Then you got Jared Stoll, who was kind of in the early stages of his career as well. He won 2 Stanley Cups as a member of the LA Kings most recently, and he's retired now as well. He had 2 assists in the finals. And then you got Radek Dvorak, who also made the Stanley Cup finals as a member of the 1996 Florida Panthers against the Colorado Avalanche. And speaking of which, that's actually what our next episode is going to be for the series. So we're going to be remaking the Florida Panthers and the Colorado Avalanche. So yeah, Dvorak only had 2 points though in the Stanley Cup finals, and that was 10 years before this. So he was a 10-year veteran at this point in time. Third line, you got Rafi Torres, and Rafi Torres actually had a pretty solid playoffs, putting up 11 points in 22 games. And he was also obviously a big kind of grinder kind of guy that would throw hits, and he could skate too. So he wasn't that bad offensively. He was not the greatest defensively, but he was a good checker and stuff like that as well. Kind of a dirty player sometimes too. Then we got our first player that was also in the 1999 Stanley Cup Finals that we already made, and that is Michael Pekka. So Michael Pekka was in the later stages of his career, dealing with like injuries and stuff like that, his concussions, and that's probably why he retired so young. So he was still pretty solid of a player overall wise, but he wasn't getting it done really in the finals. He had 2 points as well in the finals. He was more of a defensive player, like I said, in the Buffalo one. So yeah, that's Michael Pekka. Then we got Fernando Pisani, and as I said, Fernando Pisani was a hometown player. Being born in Edmonton, he took it upon himself to pot home 14 goals over the playoffs and a total of 20-something points, I think, like, or maybe it was 18 points. But he had like 14 goals, including 5 game winners, which one of them was a shorthanded overtime winner to keep Edmonton off elimination against the Carolina Hurricanes. So he was a clutch player in the playoffs. During his regular season numbers, though, he didn't put up much points. I don't think he ever even reached 15 goals in the regular season, but he was a good player in the playoffs. That's why I put his poise all the way up to a 92, hoping he comes out in the simulation. Then on the fourth line here, we got Ethan Morrow, who was the captain after Jason Smith had retired. Ethan Morrow was also one of these grinder kind of guys that just was like defensive kind of minded. Didn't score a whole lot, but he was just more of a, like I said, grinder guy that gets into fights and all that type of thing, like most like bottom line players. Then we got Rem Murray, and Rem Murray, not a lot of people know about him. He was more of a defensive guy for the rest of his career. He played twice, 2 different stints with the Edmonton Oilers, once in the 90s, and then he came back to retire with the Oilers at this age. So he actually retired at only 33, which is kind of surprising. He only had 1 assist in the Stanley Cup Finals as well. Now we have Todd Harvey, and Todd Harvey spent his entire career between the Dallas Stars, the San Jose Sharks, and the Edmonton Oilers. He also retired at the end of the season as he was just more of a bottom line player. He wasn't that old either. He didn't have the most offensive touch, so that's why I have his like shooting at like 3 stars. So he wasn't the greatest player, and that's probably why he retired as well. Now we get into the scratched forward. So the scratched forward here is Georges Laraque. Obviously, if you guys know hockey from back in the early 2000s, you got Georges Laraque, who was a big enforcer. Most recently, I think he played with the Montreal Canadiens in 2010. He got a lot of penalty minutes, let's just say, because I think he had like 20 something penalty minutes in like 15 playoff games. So that's probably why he was a scratch during the finals, because they didn't want him to take penalties. Like, he could spark the team's offense, but he wasn't that good either. He played 4 games in the finals. I think most of those games were games that Todd Harvey did not play. So I think Todd Harvey also actually battled with injuries. Forgot to mention that. So that is that. Now onto the defensive core. So starting off with the top defenseman, Chris Pronger. I could have made him a lot higher. A lot of people on the Facebook group were like, he should be at least an 89. Well, Chris Pronger, he was a good player and all, but I just feel 87, he could still contribute at this point. He had like 21 points in 24 games in the playoffs, so he was almost a point per game. He was a big piece to helping this Edmonton Oilers team out. He came over from the St. Louis Blues and then left the Oilers the year afterwards for the Anaheim Ducks, where he actually won a Stanley Cup against my Ottawa Senators. So that's Chris Pronger. Then we got Jason Smith, who was the team's captain at that time, like I was saying before. Jason Smith was not an offensive player at all. He was more of a defensive hitting kind of guy, as he threw a total of 59 hits in 24 games, so he had even more than Mike Commodore. This guy was a pretty good defensive player for the most part, so that's why he's the captain of the team and a top defensive pairing. That's why I made his offensive categories not as good as his defensive. Now on the second defensive pairing, we got Yaroslav Spacek, who also played for like Montreal, Columbus, Chicago, etc. He actually had a very good Stanley Cup Finals, putting up 5 assists in 7 games. He was only 31 at this time, so there's a lot of veteran defensemen on this Oilers team, just like there was with Carolina. Then we got Steve Stais, who was also a defensive hitting kind of defenseman. He didn't put up most offensive numbers, but he was a good shot blocker, so he had 2 assists in the finals, but he was more of one of those guys that you'd want to have on your penalty kill in that type of idea. Then on the top 6 defensive pairing, we got Dick Turnstrom, who played 5 of the 7 games in the finals. He played only with Pittsburgh as well. He was not really that good of a player offensively or anything. That's why I made him more of a better defensive defenseman than offensively, because he didn't put up much numbers, but he did actually have 2 assists in 5 games, which is not bad for the Stanley Cup Finals. And then we got Matt Green, who won 2 Stanley Cups as a member of the LA Kings with Jarrett Stoll as well. He was in the early stages of his career, only 22 to be exact, more of a defensive hitting kind of defenseman as well. He was 6'3", 236 pounds, so another big guy that could throw hits. So basically with Edmonton's defensive core, you got a lot of guys that could be physical than scoring, so they had more of a strength in defense than offensive numbers. Now that we're done the defense, let's go to the scratch defense, and that guy is Marc-Andre Bergeron. So Marc-Andre Bergeron played 2 games in the Stanley Cup Finals. More of an offensive-minded defenseman, but he was also good in the defensive zone. He was only 5'9", 190 pounds. He could easily be knocked around a bit. He wasn't as good as the rest of them at throwing hits and stuff like that, like they needed to do against a tough Carolina team. Okay, so now let's get onto the goaltenders in the situation with what happened with the goalies. The starting goaltender at this time, for the finals at least, was Jussi Markkanen. He actually didn't get to play game 1. Game 1, we'll talk about game 1 when we talk about Ty Conklin, but Jussi Markkanen played games 2 to game 7. He gave Edmonton a chance to win that Stanley Cup, but he fell short. He had a 2.16 goals against average, which is pretty good, and a .905 save percentage. And he actually picked up only 1 shutout too, so he gave them a chance, but they didn't win it. Then we also got Ty Conklin, and Ty Conklin, what I want to talk about him is he played only a tiny bit of game number 1. He came in with 5 minutes left to relieve the injured Dwayne Rolson, who went down with like a lower body injury or something. So Ty Conklin, he came in, and it was a tie game in the last 5 minutes. In the final minute of play, he went to go play the puck behind his own net, and he didn't look where he was passing it to, and it was right off Jason Smith's gate. Jason Smith was right behind the net as well with him. He didn't realize he was there, so he went to go pass it behind his back, and it hits off Jason Smith's stick or skate, one of the two, right out front to a wide open Rod Brindamore, who just puts it in the wide open net and wins Carolina game number 1. So Ty Conklin also came from Alaska, so he wasn't the greatest goaltender, but he actually, I think, won a few cups in his time too, maybe with Pittsburgh and Detroit. So yeah, that's Ty Conklin. And then we get on to the scratch goaltender, which I was just talking about, and that is Dwayne Rolson. So Dwayne Rolson, another one of the guys from the 1999 Stanley Cup Final Series. So back when he was with Buffalo, he was the backup goalie. This time he was a starting goaltender for one of the first times in his career. He was with Minnesota previously, getting old, 35 years of age, but he still played actually for quite a few more years, most recently with Islanders, I think. But he led the Edmonton Oilers all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals and gave the team a chance. He gave them kind of more confidence in themselves to actually win the Stanley Cup, but since he wasn't in the lineup, the Oilers didn't have as much confidence as they did before. So anyways, that is the Edmonton Oilers lines. So now let's get into our playoff simulation. Okay guys, here we are with the Stanley Cup Finals rematch between the Edmonton Oilers and the Carolina Hurricanes. So Carolina had home ice in this series, so let's see who takes game number 1. So in the real game number 1, Carolina took this by a score of 5-4, as I was saying, with Ty Conklin being the goaltender in the last 5 minutes. So first period here, and Edmonton's got the lead surprisingly. So Justin Williams, who's known as Mr. Game 7, comes through with the first goal of the finals. And then Ethan Morrow and Sean Horkov get Edmonton on the board to have a 2-1 lead after one, but the shots are in favor of Carolina, who are up 13-8. Second period, and Carolina has tied it back up though. The captain, Rob Brindamore, who, like I said, had 2 goals in game number 1, comes through with a big goal, and Carolina is pelting them in shots 32-16 only after 2. So let's see if Edmonton can keep the puck out of the net. Markkanen is giving them a chance to win the first game. Will they do it? Almost 40 shots now for Carolina here. Last 10 minutes to the third, and Rafi Torres comes through, and the Oilers strike first in the third, and Stillman's going to tie right back up though. Like I said, Corey Stillman had 7 points in those finals, so he gives the team the chance to win as well. And shots are 43-25 in favor of the Hurricanes, who have not had the lead yet in this game. Will they be able to get it here in overtime? Overtime underway. Will we have a hero here? Power play for Carolina, and yes, we do. Doug Waite, the former Edmonton Oiler, actually. He played for the Oilers, I think, in 1997 or something like that. He wins it for the Carolina Hurricanes, who take game 1 by a score of 4-3. So that was actually kind of close to what actually could have happened, because game 1 could have went to overtime potentially, but it would have been a score of like 5-4. So there is the stats if you guys want to see that. And in the 3 stars of the game, Justin Williams with 3 points gets first star. Rob Brindamore gets second star with 3 points, and Stillman gets third star with 3 points. So the first line seems like the beginning it done for Carolina. They actually have the better overall in this as well. I have them as a 91 overall, and Edmonton's like an 89 or something like that. So let's waste no time and get into game number 2. So game number 2 in real life, I think Carolina took it as well. So first period, and it is 2-1 for the Oilers. So once again, we have an Oilers lead after 1, and Carolina is also still leading at shots. So Jared Stoll opens the scoring. Dick Turnster makes it 2-0, but Andrew Ladd gets them back within 1. So let's see what happens here in a second. Second period, and oh wow, Carolina comes through and has the lead once again going into the third period this time. Well, this is their first regulation lead actually. Doug Waite with his second of the playoffs, and ties the game up at 2-2. Shots are 20-20 as well. And Andrew Ladd actually gave them the lead with the last 5 minutes of the period. So let's see if they could get some insurance here and lock down this episode, or not this episode, this Carolina homestand. And then going to Edmonton, I don't know what's going to happen there. Oh, and Matt Green is going to tie it up. A guy that doesn't get the most offense gets it goal. So, oh wow, Justin Williams though, his poise comes through, and Carolina's got the lead, and they're going to take it. Once again, another 4-3 score for Carolina. So Carolina's got a 2-0 lead after the first 2 games. So there's the player stats once again. So it looks like the first line's still clicking. Maybe the second and third as well, or the power play unit is. So Andrew Ladd gets first star with 2 goals, 1 assist. Ray Whitney gets second with 3 assists. And Doug Waite gets 2 points for the third star. So not a bad performance. Doesn't seem like the goalies are playing the best, which is not good, because then we won't have Cam Ward win the Conn Smythe like he actually did back in 2006. So let's see if Carolina could take a Canadian 3-0 series lead, or will Edmonton take this game and make it an 8-1 series. First period, and oh, not looking good for the Oilers. 3-0 after 1. Justin Williams once again, Craig Adams on the fourth line, and Matt Cullen on the second line make it 3-0 after 1. Markkanen does not seem to be playing that good at all. Second period, and wow, okay. Looks like this series might be coming close to an end already, as Brett Hedican makes it 4-0 going into the third. Can the Oilers come back somehow? They're being outshot by almost 10 shots as well, so not looking good for them. Oh, Sean Horkov is going to pull them within 3, even though that's still a far distance, especially with the last 10 minutes. Yeah, it looks like the Carolina Hurricanes are going to take a commanding 3-0 series lead, so I don't know if the Oilers can come back from this. The series might be over soon. So here is the stats again. So yeah, Justin Williams in that first line seems to be getting most of the offense. Maybe Justin Williams is going to take the Conn Smythe home. So Cam Ward gets the first start of the game. That was his best game yet, I think. Craig Adams gets second star with 2 points, and Chad LaRose gets third star with 2 assists as well. So that fourth line actually helped them win that game. So the depth of the Carolina Hurricanes is coming through. Okay, let's go into game number 4. Can Carolina sweep the Oilers? Hopefully we don't have to... I want to see Carolina win on home ice more, though. And it's 1-0 Carolina after 1. Justin Williams once again. So, yeah, I think Williams is going to be the guy that wins the Conn Smythe if that happens. So, shots are 9-7 for Carolina after 1 second period and still 1-0. So, we're going to have to go here into real-time simulation for the third period. Can the Oilers tie it up, or is the Hurricanes going to repeat the Stanley Cup? Jared Stoll ties it up. It could be Edmonton's chance to take the lead now with a power play, but they don't do it. Is this game going to go to overtime? I'm going to get into slow sim, and Edmonton's got a power play here late. And they're going to score, and oh, what the heck? Matt Cullen scores in the last minute of play, and Carolina looks like they might be able to sweep the Edmonton Oilers. So we're going to enter the game here, and I'll let you guys watch the third period instead of me talking during it. And you guys could see Carolina winning the Stanley Cup. So once again, we're having another sweep, which is kind of weird. Don't know why that seems to be happening, but I'll let you guys watch and see you guys back up here at the end of the video. So see you guys soon.
Got possession. Puck loose. Good defensive positioning there. Great opportunity denied. Magnificent save.
What quickness side to side.
Into the attacking end. Fires. Score! That's his first playoff goal.
You get this close to the goaltender, the puck on your stick, you got to snap it quick.
Morrow's able to clear open ice, and he lays a sweet saucer pass on the shooter's stick.
Murray's tied this game up late. Does he have another in him? Maybe now? Maybe overtime? Off the face-off, he ties his man up, and so the puck goes to his team. Great stick work. Terrific glove save, but it's loose. Stood him right out.
The Hurricanes have worked to have a productive offense, and the bump in production here in the playoffs from him has been a real benefit for them. Other teams try to shut him down. They try to get a guy right in front of his face as much as they can, but he always seems to find this.
Great point-blank save.
You want to score goals, you have to go to this area. You got to find a way to put it in the net.
Two teams that played hard, star players that gave their very best, and we still don't know how it'll turn out.
As a safety issue and courtesy to you, our fellow fans, please keep the aisles clear during gameplay and wait for a break in
the Oilers have carried this game into overtime because of this scoring play. We'll be right back with OT in just a moment.
Okay guys, so they managed to tie it up somehow with like 5 seconds left, so we're going to overtime. So I don't know if Edmonton's actually going to prevail in this. If they do, then we're going to continue up with our simulation. But anyways, I'll let you guys continue watching overtime, so let's let you guys watch.
We have begun sudden death overtime. Scooped up by Hedman. The Hurricanes have it in the defensive zone. He's in on an onside play. Scooped up. That puck's loose, mishandled. That's the end. Good work by Smith. That shot came from nowhere.
With this puck being so close to net, this is all a reactionary save.
Pressure mounting here. Waits with it. Walks the line. and he gets it back. Missed the net.
Oh, that shot had a lot of steam on it. That just missed wide of the net.
Looking to headman up the wing.
Hemsky's got to try to simplify his game there. Just too much stick handling.
Recollects it. Right where the boards turn, he's got it. A good stick there, so no complete pass. Takes that pass from the other point man. Takes that pass, and he fires. Outstanding save, just got his glove on it. Pass across at the point. Big shot, big save. Stick handles right up the center. He can start some danger here. A shot, terrific glove save. In their own end, keeps it going. Gains the blue line. Fires. Ooh, what a break. Shot hit the man. Glides across. Perfect receipt of the pass. He can start some danger here. Back at the point now, and he gets it back. Point to point. That one was tipped, but missed the net. Stood up there. Great stick there. Looking for room. Out to the point with it now. Sends it across the blue line. Got that. Tremendous scoring chance. Pulls his way along. Point-to-point pass. Sends it back the other way. One-timer. Save. Edmonton's carrying it on through the area between the blue lines. Pass off the mark thanks to the defender's stick. Very important time to have a minor penalty call, and so special teams become important. Carolina's roster goes down by one here. At least briefly, a minor penalty for hooking.
Well, what he was trying to do is trying to get the puck, but unfortunately for him, he reached in and hooked around the player. Off to the penalty box he goes. This power play has to find a way to get more people to the net.
You got it, Eddie. Let's see. The power play is just about to begin.
There almost seems to be a comfortable feeling while being shorthanded here tonight.
I understand, Eddie. The numbers don't lie, but perhaps this one can make a difference. Just under 3 minutes skated in overtime. So far, 4 goals equally divided. Strong play on that faceoff. You have to be strong to hold that other guy off. Sent on further, they'll have to return. Carolina's in possession as they move up the wing. Looking from the corner. Looks ahead to start something. The Oilers through the neutral zone controlling the play. Sends to the point. One-timer. Very important if he can clear this puck out. And it's cleared out of there. Edmonton's in their own end and in control of the puck. Rifled that pass up the middle to Hemsky. With a shot. And possession now on the pickup by Hedman. Oh, and what a tremendous job of keeping the puck alive. Nice tip of the pass. And that one goes back down. A tremendous job of penalty killing by Carolina. To Sparky. Moving it to Hemsky. Moved along and in. Lots on that to Stoll. Oh, my. That one was way wide.
Oh, you miss an opportunity like that. You better not be in a hurry to get back to that bench.
For the blast. Outstanding save. What magic even to get there and get the shot off.
Terrific stop from right in front of the net, but you got to find a way to put the puck in the net.
Ward's stop will extend this. It looked like we were going home with that chance. Brilliant stop.
Possession established. Good reach there. And that's a good job taking the pressure off. Edmonton's in their own end and carrying it on. Looking to Smith. Gains the zone. Shoots. Got his glove on it. He covers and holds on.
The team has always leaned on him as one of their offensive producers. In the playoffs, you have to look to your best players to be your best. And here he is in the top 10.
We have a winner. Yeah, shot back out. All's fine. The Hurricanes kill off a hugely important penalty.
No bigger time for penalty killers to come through than right now. In overtime, game over if you get...
Oh, what a terrific save in close.
You want to score goals, you have to go to this area.
And he dumps it in. Pitching it to Santos. Good. Oh, a great reaction there as that one was tipped on goal. Gets in and he'll look over his options. Nice gloved.
Now that's a quick glove.
Marco's made several excellent saves. None better than that. Certainly none bigger than that one here in overtime.
Edmonton's got that win. Feeds the point. Propelled to Sparky. Puck loose, knocked down to a knee. Strong defensive play. Good stick there, so the pass is not complete. Puck loose, couldn't get through. Good solid defensive play there. Edmonton's got it and moving it through the neutral zone. Mashed in. Gathered up again by Harvey. Didn't handle it very well. Free puck. The Hurricanes continue on at center. Oh, how can they miss that pass? Great glove save. Side to side they go. Oh, what a glove he's got there.
Marco's stop will extend this. It looked like we were going home with that chance. Brilliant stop.
Good reach there. Up the wing, still with possession and with hope. That's a free puck thanks to the play by Comer. Pass attempt to Ladd. Onside. Flings it. Didn't miss by much.
He was trying to be a little bit too fine there. That's why he missed the net.
Chip to Para. Oh, that one hit someone on the way. Carolina's in possession as they travel up the wing. Good quick stick. He takes that point pass. And possession has changed. Brilliant move on that pass. Shoots it on. Outstanding save. What magic to even get the shot away.
You talk about cutting down the angle. Perfectly executed by the goaltender.
Under 7 minutes have been skated here in overtime. Both teams have connected twice. The draw, the tie-up, and his team prevails. Gets in, looks over his options here. Paddled aside. Score! The Stanley Cup winning goal in overtime!
So many ups and downs over the course of the long season. You always hope that at the end of the day that you'll be able to celebrate as champions. These guys have just realized that. You go through the handshake lineup and there is sportsmanship to be shown, but it's hard to let go of the intensity of a long and bitter series.
The playoff MVP gets the Conn Smythe Trophy, and here is the winner.
I'm always interested in the way the player reacts to getting this trophy. It's almost like they want to get out of there so they can celebrate the Stanley Cup. You've been selected as the best player in the playoffs, but really all you can think about is that your team is champions.
It's often said it's the hardest prize to win because it takes 8 weeks. And by tradition, the captain is the first to hold it high.
No matter where you look in the hockey world over the next little while, that picture will be the first one that you see. It will also be in his home in a prominent position, I imagine, a moment he'll never forget. As long as the Stanley Cup has been presented on the ice, and then the players have made a victory lap with it, there's been a pecking order as to how the cup is handed off. Nobody really talks about it. It just organically happens. But everybody knows there's a seniority to the way that this 30-pound trophy is presented player to player.
You play that hard and that long. You get your names on a trophy, rings on your fingers, and one last photograph. Evidence of it all.
There you guys have it. The Carolina Hurricanes managed to continue and hold on to that Stanley Cup. So Justin Williams had the game-winning goal in overtime, kind of almost like he did in the actual Game 7. But this time, as you can see, just a little shot through to the wickets of Markkanen, who almost gets back to make the save, but just a bit short. And yeah, Carolina has taken that cup. So Justin Williams also actually won the Conn Smythe, I think. He had 7 points in the 7 games it said. So pretty decent sim. Hopefully you guys like this video. So thank you guys so much for watching, and see you guys next episode.